Hello everybody and welcome to the GKaiser Age. This is Lucian GKaiser, and as you can see here, I'm in the game Final Fantasy XIV, dressed up as one of my favorite cards from Cardfight Vanguard, one of the Royal Paladins, Blaster Blade. Now, Cardfight Vanguard is a very awesome card game that I absolutely love, and today I'm going to start a multi-part video series going over not only why I love Vanguard, but all the interesting aspects that make it just a fantastic card game overall. So let's go ahead and head off of here and get right into the world of Cardfight Vanguard. Lucian GKaiser, let's ride the Vanguard! Alright everybody, and here we are. This is my avatar, Blaster Blade. Now, of course, this card isn't the one that you would normally start out on the game, but for this video today, we're going to be talking about all the basic dynamics of each of the cards in the actual set and how they work towards the overall game. Now, on the next video, we'll be actually talking more in depth about what makes these cards so unique, special, and just fun overall when it comes to their clans and their affiliations. But for today, let's focus on the dynamics within the cards themselves. So now, as you can see, I'm at a grade 2. We're going to go ahead and just go back to the basics. We're going to go ahead and go back to being just a grade 0 card and discussing what that exactly means in the world of Cardfight Vanguard. Alright, so let's go ahead and start with the basics. As I said before, I'm going to go ahead and go back to a more basic form. This is the one that you will start out with when you enter the world of Cray. Well, to be honest, when you enter the world of Cray, which is the world where the Vanguard cards actually exist as real entities, you'll start out as a spirit. Now, in the regards of the card game, your first card and your starting Vanguard will always be a grade 0 card. And this grade 0 usually has a fairly simple effect. This current effect on this one, Glyamy, is when a card rides on top of it, you get to draw a card from your deck. But we'll go more into the mechanics of that later. Let's go ahead and start with talking about the basics of the grade 0 cards. So in the upper left hand corner of the card, you will see this item, an icon that has the grade and the number with the grade right underneath it. As you can see, this is of course a grade 0. Underneath that, you have the grade's ability, and this ability for grade 0s is the ability to boost a card that is on the front row in front of it. So your grade 0s act like support units for all the other main cards in the higher grades in your actual deck. They're very important in that respect, but they also have an even better and more important effect, and let's go ahead and take a look at that next after we go ahead and discuss one more aspect, and that is the shield icon on the left hand side of the card. So every card with the exception of grade 3s in your deck has a shield ability, and that shield rating is actually the defense that this card can put up when used as a defensive measure against enemy attacks. In this case, this grade 0 has a 10,000 shield. Now, we'll discuss how that works in conjunction with the attack power. The attack power is listed at the bottom left-hand corner of the card. As you can see, this card has an attack power of 6,000. It is one of the lowest attack powers, as grade 0s are generally the lowest attack power cards in the game, with the exception of when they use certain abilities that they may have. Next to that attack power of 6,000, you will also see the unit type. This is a normal unit. That means it doesn't have any real special effect or anything like that, versus some of the more higher tier, versus some of the other units, which are called the trigger units in the grade 0 line. So let's go ahead and take a look at some trigger units now that we got the basics out of the way for the grade 0 stats. Alright, so let's go ahead and call some grade zeros on the field. Once again, this isn't actually a mechanic of the actual card fight. I'll be going over that in a later video, but this is just so we can look at some other grade zeros, specifically grade zero trigger cards. So let's go ahead and call up my friends. Yggdrasil, the Maiden Elaine, Margal, and Bringer of Good Luck, Epina. Alright, and then we're going to call a guest star. Now, in the Royal Paladin line that I'm showing off here, all these cards are underneath the Royal Paladin clan. There is one type of trigger that is not in this clan currently, and that is this guy. He is from the Nova Grappler clan, and he is Turbo Riser, and he is a front trigger. So he will be a special guest just for today, so we can talk about what front triggers can do. But let's go ahead and start out with Epina, the Bringer of Good Luck. So Epina is what they call a critical trigger. Now I'm going to go ahead and bring up a closer image of Epina through a digital image here to make it easier so we can go over the details. So a critical trigger allows your Vanguard, when it is drawn from your deck as part of your attack phase, to gain one extra critical attack and a boost of 10,000 power. Now that boost of 10,000 power is fantastic along with the extra critical, because it essentially allows you a better chance at not only dealing damage to your opponent, but dealing a greater amount of damage. Once again, something we'll go over in the main mechanics video. Needless to say, critical triggers are very important to have in your deck, and as you can see, Epina's also got a much higher defense power as well, at 15,000 for its shield. So that makes it a very powerful defensive card to use if you have it available for that. As again, something that we'll go over in the main game. Now, the next card we're going to go over is going to be Margal, and he is a draw trigger. He gives out the same effect of plus 10,000 power, but instead of getting a boost to your critical, you actually get to draw a card from your deck during your attack phase. Now, of course, effects from cards drawn, for the most part, cannot be used during that attack phase, but by drawing that card, it gives you an extra card you can use for future defense, to actually lay on the field, or even ride as your Vanguard. This is an awesome opportunity for you to gain some extra cards, and works well with certain deck types that require some extra draws to have a nice large hand to use against your opponent. Alright, the next one we'll be talking about is our good friend and visitor, Mr. Turbo Riser. He is a front trigger. You can see here he has a 15,000 shield. Margal only had a 5,000 shield, which is pretty weak, but with his draw effect, it gives you a better opportunity to get better cards. So that's his main focus. But here, with Turbo Riser, his main focus is raw power. So in Vanguard, the front row cards, that is the top set of 3 cards that you see on the field there, is considered your front row. And if you draw a front trigger, which is the new type of trigger for Cardfight Set V that I'm playing with here today, that front trigger will give every unit on your front row plus 10,000 power. And that is fantastic effect for a card. So that's one of the reasons why I like this new card, the front trigger. It replaces one of the original cards, which was a stand trigger. The stand trigger in the original Vanguard set would allow you to restand one of your cards that had attacked and rested this turn. So that is kind of a nice give and trade, and with the new enhancements that they've made to the new V series of Vanguard cards, I really like the front trigger. I like its addition. So I just want to thank you, Mr. Turbo Riser, for joining us. You can go ahead and head back to the Nova Grappler clan where you belong, and we're going to go ahead and continue on with the final trigger card, and that is, of course, Yggdrasil Maiden Elaine. She is one of the most important cards to have in your deck. she is what's called a heal trigger. With the heal triggers, they not only give you plus 10,000 power, but they also give you the ability to heal 1 damage off of your damage zone. So essentially, if you draw this card while you're attacking and your damage is equal to or higher than your opponent's, you get to actually go ahead and take one of your damage cards and put it into the drop zone. And that means you basically gain a little extra health and, you know, don't have as much damage in your damage zone, making it much harder for your opponent to knock you out of the game. Now, the other important thing about heal triggers, that's a nice major upgrade from the original set. The heal trigger has a nice 20,000 shield. That means not only will this card heal you, but if you have it in your hand and you've already used the heal effect from a previous turn from drawing it, that means you have a 20,000 shield, which is very impressive and can be very helpful in certain situations. But now that we're done taking a look at the grade zeros, I do believe it's time we ride the Vanguard and upgrade to the next tier of cards, the grade 1. So let's get started on that. And I am going to go ahead and ride the Vanguard, and we're going to go ahead and grade 1 to Knight Squire Allen. So when you ride the Vanguard, you basically place it over the previous grade. Now, of course, you can only ride in the order of the numbers. So you can only ride from a grade 0 to a grade 1. You can't go from a grade 0 to a grade 2 or 3. You have to have that previous grade already on the field in order to ride up to the next level. Alright, so now let's go ahead and take a look at some grade 1 cards and their abilities. Okay, so now we've ridden the Vanguard, and I am now Knight Squire Allen. This is definitely a nice upgrade. No offense to you, Blimey, but I do definitely prefer being a nice Knight Squire. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the grade 1s and talk about their ability. So the first thing that we always want to know about grade 1s is their main ability is like the grade 0s. It is boost, but this time the grade 1s are really designed to be your general purpose card. They can not only be decent attackers, but they are fantastic supporters from the front row or back row of the card game early on. Now, the grade 1's boost ability is really useful because of their higher attack power, because the boost is once again based off of the card's attack power, but even greater is the abilities that they come with, because all grade 1s for the most part have special abilities that are tied directly to them. As you can see with Knight Squire Allen, his ability is automatically, when you place him on the Vanguard circle or any circle on the field, you can counterblast, which means you can use one of your damage cards by flipping it over to call up to one card with a grade less than or equal to your Vanguard from your hand to a rear guard circle. That's one of the circles other than the Vanguard center front row circle that you see that he's on. If you call the card, this card gets plus 3,000 power until the end of the turn. This is a great combination ability. Because of this, that means the card gets an extra 3,000, and it gets to help you call one of your allies onto the field to help fill up your attack field before attacking the opponent. Now, one of the great things about this is if he's on the rear guard circle, that 3,000 power can be added to his attack power, of course, and he can use that to boost the card in front of him, essentially giving them an extra 11,000 power. That's one of the great things about grade 1s and what makes their abilities so useful. Now, grade 1s, of course, they still have a shield, but their shield is not as high as the grade 0s because they're not a mainline support unit. They're both a combination support and attack unit. Alright, so the next card that we have in the grade 1 area, and this is a fantastic card. It is possibly the best defense you can get in the game itself, and that is Strong Knight Renoria, and I hope I pronounced that right. Now, her shield is at 0. Okay, come on, don't look at me funny. The reason why her shield is at 0 is because she has the ability called Perfect Guard. Now, she's listed as a Sentinel, but her ability is actually what's called a Perfect Guard. Now, because her shield is at 0, in order to power this ability, you have to discard a card from your hand when you place her in the guard zone during the time when you are being attacked by your opponent. If you do this, she becomes empowered by the sacrifice of one of her comrades and has the ability to block any attack regardless of the strength, the amount of criticals, any effects being used by it, unless those effects somehow negate her ability to guard against it. But I haven't really seen anything like that really before myself personally. But essentially she can block anything regardless if it's 30,000, 50,000, 60,000, 100,000, 200,000. She will block that with her Sentinel ability known as the Perfect Guard. So these are very important cards to have in your deck, and you definitely want to make sure you have at least one or at least 2 of these, if not, a full 4 copies of it, which is the maximum you can have. So as you can see, the grade 1s are fantastic. Now certain grade 1s, as you can see with Wingal here, have what's called a boost ability. Once again, that's an ability that when the card is lined up in a certain column or in a certain position or a certain effect goes off, it gets an extra power to its boost ability. So with this one, during your turn, all of your blaster blade in the same column as this unit get plus 5,000. So that means that while this card is behind another card with blaster blade in its name, that unit will automatically get 5,000 during this turn, but that's only during your turn when you're attacking, things like that. So this is a great thing because then you get the boost from Wingal as well, so that makes it a total of 13,000 during your attack phase as long as this card is behind the card that's attacking and that card has the name Blaster Blade. So you gotta love boost abilities like that. So grade 1s are your support and of course your early attackers in the game. But now it is time to ride the Vanguard once again, and it's time to bring back out my avatar. The avatar that is possibly the poster boy for the Royal Paladins and pretty much was one of the first ones that we saw for Vanguard when it originally came out several years ago, and that is Blaster Blade. So let's go ahead and ride him on the Vanguard circle, and let's go ahead and start talking some grade 2 action. Alright, so now we are in the grade 2 level of cards, and the grade 2s, they are your mainline attackers. These are the guys that really get in there and do the main damage for you before you ride up to grade 3. They are all about that attack power. They all start with a nice around 10,000 attack power, some of them around 9,000, but they usually have effects that help to boost that attack power up greatly. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at, of course, Blaster Blade. So Blaster Blade has a very special ability. Now his shield is only 5,000, but he makes up for that in spades. So the first thing, of course, is his ability when he is, of course, placed on the rear guard or vanguard circle. When he's placed there, if you counter blast and soul blast one card, that means you blast one card out of your damage area by turning it over, and then one out of your actual soul. That means the cards that are actually underneath him in your soul of your deck, of your, of course, actual game. Then you can use his ability to retire one of your opponent's rear guards in the front row. And that is a big thing. That means your opponent just lost, before even being attacked, one of their front row units. And that's really big too, because grade 2s have the ability of intercept. That means that while your enemy is attacking, you can take a grade 2, like the Knight of Silence Galantine here with his 10,000 shield, and actually move him while he's on the field to block the enemy attack against your Vanguard, which is a very cool ability. The grade 2s all have that ability. They're not boosters. They are meant to be on the front line, taking the damage and dealing the damage out. But now it's time to get to the big one, the one that everybody is always excited to see. And we're going to take a look at some grade 3s. And we're going to start with, of course, one of my favorite grade 3s, Alfred Early. So let's go ahead and ride the Vanguard, Alfred Early, and become one of the most heroic knights. And we'll talk about him and a few of his friends in the grade 3 area. Alright, so now that we've ridden the Vanguard, we are now at grade 3, and that means we get a new ability. So my new ability as a grade 3 Vanguard is the Twin Drive. So during your attack phase, you get to draw one card with your Vanguard to see if you get a critical trigger or any kind of other trigger on the actual card itself that you draw from your deck. But with the actual Vanguards that are grade 3, they get the ability Twin Drive. That means you get to do 2 drive checks and see if you get 2 triggers. If you do, you get to activate both of those triggers and use their abilities the way that you like to. So that makes grade 3s the potent and powerful attack force, and that is exactly why they don't have a shield. So you can't use a grade 3 to defend yourself. And that kind of really helps to balance out the game, because if you had a front row grade 3s with like something crazy like a 20,000 shield, you could literally be blocking for days. So if your front row is all grade 3s, you won't be able to intercept. So that requires you to strategically balance how many grade 3s you have on your front row versus having an extra grade 2 to kind of just intercept and help defend your actual Vanguard from attack. But we'll get more into those straight mechanics later. Now, a new ability that grade 3s also have, it's called the Force ability. And we'll take a quick look at one of the Force cards here with this special version one that has Blaster Blade. Now, the Force cards, basically when you ride your grade 3 Vanguard, you get to put this card on your field underneath as a marker underneath one of your Vanguard or your rear guard. And the unit on the circle with this card gets plus 10,000 power during your turn. But let's go ahead and go forward, talking more about the grade 3s straight up themselves. So now you can see Alfred has some special abilities here. And all the grade 3s have some of the most unique and potent abilities in the game. His is when he's placed on the Vanguard circle, you can actually counterblast one card and call up to 1 Blaster Blade from your hand, or even more importantly, from your soul. So I can actually pull Blaster Blade out and have him on the field with Alfred Early. And that is a fantastic ability. And not only that, Alfred Early gets plus 10,000 power until the end of the turn. And if you manage to call Blaster Blade in this way, you also get to draw a card. And that is pretty cool. I definitely love that ability about Alfred Early. But let's go ahead and talk about another grade 3 that's a pretty cool looking grade 3, and that is going to be Soul Saver Dragon. So let's go ahead and ride Soul Saver Dragon. Soul Saver Dragon has the same Twin Drive and of course the Force ability. So now of course Soul Saver Dragon has their own effect, and that is what's called a Soul Blast. And this is like a major one. You have to have 5 cards out of your soul, and if you do that, 6 of your units all get plus 15,000 attack power until the end of turn. And that is awesome. Now if you don't have 5 cards, Soul Saver Dragon has the ability to soul charge once when it attacks. So you may take a card from your deck and put it into your soul when it's attacking. But still, this is one of the most fantastic and powerful cards when it comes to the Royal Paladins. But my personal grade 3 favorite, and the one that I've always loved, and I never got an actual copy of it with the original set, because I kind of just moved on by the time it became a less, wanted card and the price dropped. I had already moved on to other Royal Paladins, but I can never say that I did not stop loving the King of Knights, Alfred. A fantastic looking card and just a fantastic beast all in himself. So let's go ahead and ride the king here. He of course has the force ability and the twin drive, but of course then he has his special ability. So once a turn, while he is on the Vanguard circle, you can activate this ability, and it's a counter blast of 1. So again, 1 damage card turned over face down in your damage zone. You get to search your deck for up to 1 blaster blade, call it to a rear guard circle, and that unit gets plus 5,000 until the end of turn, and then you have to shuffle your deck. But here's the next thing. During your turn, if you have a blaster blade on your rear guard circle, this card automatically gets plus 10,000. He is a fantastic attacking card, and I absolutely love him. I mean, he's just very awesome, and I love the Royal Paladins. They're definitely one of my favorite clans, aside from some of the Nova Grappler clans that were released in the later version of the earlier versions of Cardfight Vanguard before this one. So definitely, this is a fantastic and fun game. We've gone over all the grades and everything and the basics on the cards themselves. There's a few other flavor things that are on here. Now, naturally, of course, at the center or bottom of the card next to the power, you have the critical rating, which is pretty much always 1 for everything. I haven't seen anything that has more than 1 itself, really, at least not in this set of cards. You, of course, have the race, which is, of course, human for him. You have the clan, which is Royal Paladin, naturally. Each clan has its own color. And then, of course, you have the actual nation that he belongs to. That is the United Sanctuary. And they have their own little, like, national flag kind of thing. And all the different cards have that. So the next video that we'll be doing on Vanguard is going to be what really grabbed me about Vanguard. And that is the clans, the play styles of those clans and nations and everything, and just the general anime style feel. Because the Royal Paladins, the way their group plays, is like that classic group of heroes. They work together. The more of them that are together, the stronger they are. They are better together as friends and compatriots, and they just embody this noble soul that you see in a lot of animes where they band together to defeat the enemy. So once again, this is Lucian GKaiser from the GKaiser Age. If you like what you see here, please definitely give it a like, comment, let me know what your favorite Vanguard cards and everything are and what your favorite clan is, because we'll probably be talking in detail about them in the next video. Of course, as always, put a favorite on here if you like this video to watch again later. Definitely subscribe to my channel if you want to see more great anime, gaming, and entertainment media related, of course, content. And also, of course, check out my Twitter, my Facebook page, my, of course, Twitch channel, because I'll be doing some streaming in the upcoming weekends and everything on that Twitch channel. Again, this is Lucian GKaiser. I've ridden the Vanguard today, so we'll see you next during the next card fight battle.